Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mikey Likes It, Sweet 16 edition. Yes, we have brought our UFFDAH Sports insider, the single name only Mikey, our gambling expert, back to digest of the NCAA men's basketball tournament and to take a look ahead at what is brewing, his prognostications for the Sweet 16. The man, the myth, the legend. He's wanted in several states, so we've got to hide his identity if we can, not just because of his first round picks, because he actually ended up on the positive side of the ledger. How do you assess your first round prognostications, Mikey?
I had a great week. We only did shows on Friday for the Friday games, but I played really hard. I was on Rutgers hard against Houston, which was my best bet that I shared with everybody earlier against Georgia Tech. And overall for the weekend, I was plus 17 units. So I was very happy with my plays, and I'm looking forward to helping the audience this week.
All right, well, we are going to be getting on to the Sweet 16, but before we do that, we're going to take a step back. We're going to look back through the rearview mirror, and we're going to break down the plays that you gave us last week. This in an effort to sort of let you explain yourself and to give people an idea, kind of into a peek behind the curtain as to how you go about and do your business. And the first game that you played last week was the play-in game. And in that game, you took UCLA +2 over Michigan State, and you got it. Needed overtime to get it, but you got it to go 1-0. Your thoughts on that game?
I'm not a fan of Tom Izzo. I think Tom Izzo is the best of him has passed. You could see Michigan State towards the end of the game was choking, did not really have a good offensive sets. He had timeouts to use. He decided not to use them. They're throwing air balls up. And when the game did get to overtime, UCLA just dominated that part. So where he only gave me a 1-0, I had said I'd also do the money line, which gave me better payoffs. So I had two wagers on that game, the money line as well as UCLA +2.
And the money line means under?
Yeah, the money line paid me 120. So let's say I bet $500 on the game on the money line. It got me back $600. The difference is they had to win the game. Point spread's irrelevant. And so one of the things I always share with people is if you like short favorites, football, basketball, teams are getting 1 or 2 points, it's in your long-term best interest to win more money is to not take the point spread and just take the money line. You'll get better payoffs, and the chances of them hitting or losing by 1 or 2 points, as an example, is a very small opportunity.
It's basically a toss-up.
Correct. So why don't you take the better odds? That'll give you the better chance of making more money.
So I've got you 1-0, and you've got yourself 2-0.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, folks, you're going to get used to this. Okay, so we are going to move on. Your next one, you said to bet the over, Arkansas versus Colgate. What was your thought process going in?
Both teams played in the 80s. The score, I thought Arkansas, the winning team, would get 90 points. I think Arkansas came pretty close. I liked my bet. I would do it again. Colgate went 5 minutes in the second half, not scoring any points. And it made this a very close game, a much larger spread, which then Colgate did not need to foul at the end of the game because the game was out of reach. I like my play. I would do it again. The team just didn't score for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've got you 1-1. You would have yourself 2-1 at that point. The next wager you liked was playing the under on Texas Tech versus Utah State with the line of 131, and you got one. You predicted 59-53 Texas Tech, the actual 65-53 Texas Tech.
Yeah, it was a coffee game, no issues. You knew you had one. I played it again. I bet the second half under as well. It was a very easy victory. The Mountain West is one of the most overrated conferences in the tournament. Except the 1 year that San Diego State won a bunch of games, the Mountain West has basically one and done in the tournament. And Texas Tech could name the score if they wanted to.
Well, at that point, I've got you 2-1. You'd have yourself 3-1 at that point. And you were saying one of the most overrated conferences is the Mountain West. I asked you prior to this, you really weren't showing the Big Ten a lot of love. And I said, don't you think the Big Ten's actually going to go out there and dish it up on everybody else? And you said, no, I don't think so. And you were right overall. Unfortunately, not where the team was concerned. You liked North Carolina an 8 seed over Wisconsin a 9. And on this day, it was Wisconsin. And this one was not close. What happened?
I screwed up. Wisconsin had senior guards. North Carolina had a freshman actually from Hopkins, Minnesota, and a sophomore guard. And one of the things I always look for in the tournament is senior guards. Wisconsin had 2 of them. It was a bad play.
Yeah, Wisconsin, when Brad Davison scores 27 points, I'm not sure he scored 27 points in the season.
Correct.
It was their day.
Correct.
Your next one, you had Rutgers, a 10 seed over Clemson, a 7. And you hit that one. Another Big Ten team getting a win. They were few and far between, but you got one there, going 3 or 4-2 at that point on the weekend or on the day.
Yeah, Rutgers was my best bet. I love this team. The coach, though, he should have beat Houston. Another poor coached outcome. Rutgers is a senior-laden team, so unless they decide to come back from COVID, they'll probably be pretty weak next year. But while they only won by 4 points, towards the second half, Rutgers was up by close to 7, 8, 10. Clemson made it close, but you didn't have to worry about that game.
And one of the games you didn't necessarily bet. You told us before, and you went into some detail on it too.
So I like Loyola. I bet Loyola, and I got Loyola -1, 1.5. It was the 2 lines that I was able to get down on. When the line went all the way up to 5, and I was unaware that Georgia Tech's best player got the COVIDs.
Right.
That was the reason why the line jumped. But in retrospect, when a line jumps that much of a change, I could not recommend betting games. There is times during the season, football, basketball, whatever, that I will like a team. I'll be able to get it because I'll bet it early. But by the time we're talking to the audience, the Lions ran away from us. And that's why I couldn't recommend saying, hey, put money on the game in comparison to the other 5 games that I had.
Fair enough. And the Georgia Tech lost their best player, but you also said at that time that you thought that they would fare well and potentially beat Illinois in that second round. So I'm guessing you were not quite as surprised as most of the rest of us when it happened.
No. I mean, if Illinois, I got Loyola at 6, 6.5, 7. Every time the line went to my advantage, I put more money on Loyola. Loyola, they played a excellent game. And again, if you watch that game, another bad coach by Brad Underwood, not adjusted, never pressed the team. Loyola plays really 6 players. So their guards are pretty much 35 to 40-minute type of players. They would have got tired if he would have changed up the tune of the play. So I think Loyola, though, this week is in for a tough matchup. Because I think there's going to be a bounce factor as it relates to the next game. That one of the games we're going to talk about.
We're almost to that one, but before we go there, just want to say that you had told us that at various points in the year, you had placed bets on 3 different teams to win it all. You bet Gonzaga at 8-1, Illinois at 6-1, and UCLA at 16-1. And you still have 2 or 3 after the first weekend.
Yeah, so the UCLA was actually 65-1. Gonzaga was 8-1. I love Gonzaga at my 8-1, of course. UCLA, I think they're going to win next week. I don't think they're going to get to the Final Four, though. But I'm happy with my Gonzaga.
You don't have UCLA as one of your 4 picks for us this week. Who have they got, and why do you like them?
Well, no, I like them to win the game.
Yeah, you're not betting it.
No, I can't. I cannot recommend taking a UCLA. They're a small favorite, and I just feel that. Well, I think they'll win the game. I don't want to be a recommendation to bet the game.
Well, we talked beforehand, and you weren't overly enthusiastic about any of these plays. And I'm wondering, is this typical for you when it gets closer, when you get to 16 and then 8-4-1? I mean, you aren't going to have the disparity, generally speaking. But is this year somewhat atypical, or this weekend somewhat atypical, and that you just don't see those games that you just love? You're not salivating over?
Yeah, the challenge that I have is that the lines are getting tougher, and there's just nothing that just screams at me that I want to play. There's one game that I have kind of manipulated the line. Me and some colleagues in Vegas did. But besides that, the rest of these games, there's with the exception of one, there's not that much money that I'm going to be putting out on the games. I might be doing some in-game betting, depending on how I see it, because the algorithms that the casinos use, they don't take into consideration foul trouble, and they really don't take into consideration if somebody gets hurt. So that you can find loopholes in lines by taking advantage of that.
All right, well, let's get on to, you've given us 4 plays this week. Are you ready to move on to the Sweet 16?
Let's do it, my friend.
The first one you had just mentioned a moment ago, Loyola. They were good to you in the opening weekend, but you're ready to say goodbye to Loyola. You've got to Oregon State. You bet them at +7. The line, as the time of our publication here, is 6.5.
Yes. Loyola is the media darling. Loyola is great as an underdog role. They just beat the big brother of Illinois in their state. Oregon State is one of these teams. They have tons of athletes. Loyola is a relatively smaller squad where they're, besides their center, they don't really have much height, as well as they're not a deep team. Ethan Thompson from Oregon State has been playing excellent. Against Oak State, they only shot 30% on threes, which wasn't their norm. They led the Pac-10. I'm sorry, them and Oregon were 1-2 in the Pac-10 for shooting threes. I think Loyola wins the game. I think it's close. When you're given 6-7 points and the over-under in the game, which is around 125, 126, it becomes very more challenging for a team to cover a bigger spread. And in basketball, specifically college basketball, when the line gets over 5, I consider that a big spread. So I like Oregon State. I think Loyola wins, but that's one of the plays I'd recommend this week. All
right. You've got you like the play with the points for Oregon State. You think Loyola wins the ball game. Moving on. We have not a lot left for the Big Ten, and you're not a big fan of the team that's still there.
I'm not. I mean, Livers is one of their better players. He is the player. If they need to get a basket, who are they going to go to? Is Livers. As we're doing this, he is still out. Michigan's 3, 2.5, or 3. If you can get that point spread and Livers is out, I would bet the game. If Livers plays, I would not bet the game. The line would probably go higher, but he is that much of a difference maker.
Agreed.
Dickerson is Florida State is very athletic. But they don't really have that much height. They have a center that's I think from Yugoslavia. His name is Rika. If he doesn't stay in foul trouble, if he gets in foul trouble, Dickerson have a big game. Look, I don't love it. Again, if you can get 2.5, 3, and Livers is out, I would play Florida State. But if Livers plays, it's no action for me. And I've not bet the game because I don't know if Livers is playing yet.
I like Dickerson a lot. I like Michigan more than you do, but just the way the Big Ten has played this tournament, I would have a hard time putting money on any Big Ten team at this point, right? Every year this seems to happen. I think we hear so much about the Big Ten. I mean, I'm in Minnesota. You're in the Midwest. We hear so much about the Big Ten, and then it comes tournament time, and it's the Pac-10 teams that are still there at the end of this thing, isn't it?
It is. It is. I am surprised that many Pac-10 teams made it. But I look at the Big Ten, they get all the press. They get all they get the ESPN. Oh, they got all these great players. They're going to have 3 number ones, yada, yada, yada. I'm sorry. And the line is inflated because, again, Vegas wants to try to get middle money on both sides. And that's one of the reasons, again, why I'm fading Michigan. I think Florida State will win the close game if Livers is out. But, again, you got to wait to see who plays before jumping in that game.
We've told people before, you and I are diametrically opposed in so many things where we think about sports and in our lives. And as I sat here and listened to you last week and you were talking about Syracuse, all I kept thinking is, I hate Jim Boeheim. I hate Syracuse. And I don't think they're going to do anything. And again, you hit it. You've got Syracuse. They're still there. You bet them at 6.5. The line is down to 6. You like the orange and the points. And again, you talked about coaches going in here. And Boeheim's got him right there.
I like Jim Boeheim. Okay.
I know you do. I don't.
I do. His son's been crazy shooting threes. Look, they've been shooting 50%. They've made in the tournament. That's an incredible clip. 60% of their shots have been 3-pointers in the tournament. Honestly, if they keep shooting like that, they're going to win hands down. I like Houston, but this Jiwan Jaru, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He has a major hip injury, and he basically willed them back into the game, and the coaching of Rutgers screwed up. The head coach of Rutgers, because I had Rutgers on the money line, would have paid me plus 275 in that game against Houston, and I could not believe the stupidity of their head coach. Hey, let's run the clock down to 7-8 seconds to start our offense at midcourt with 3 to 4 minutes to go in the game. What are you talking about? I mean, if there was maybe 30, 45 seconds left in the game, you're up by 5-6 points. Love the thought process. But 2 to 3 minutes to go in the game, you took your players right out of there. And Giroux, who's still playing, but if he had to play defense, he let the guy rest. It was like 3-4 guys were just sitting in the corner waiting for either Baker to break down the players or Harper. Yeah, it was horrible. I'm still going to take the orange. I think Giroux's out. 6 points. Again, don't love it, folks. But, I've already bet it once, and I like Syracuse. I like Boeheim. So
we've got one more, and this is probably your most interesting play because you were telling me beforehand you bet it one way, and now you're pretty much thinking, maybe not.
Yeah, well, it was an intentional thing. When I was in Vegas, me and a few of other bigwigs, if you want to call it, we were there over the weekend.
High rollers, we like to call you.
Well, we call it we just like to call we like to take the presidents. And we were on USC against Kansas. USC went off as a small favorite. Always love when Vegas has a higher seed being favored over a lower seed. This was a 6 against a 3. Just loved USC athleticism. Kansas, they're a good team,
Ooh.
but the USC was out there and they were ready to play. So we're in Vegas. We're happy as shit, cashing our winning tickets. And then they post the line. And the line comes out, and we're sitting back. And we go, Oregon's not a bad team. USC just played the game of their life. They shot 61% on threes. They're not a good three-point shooting team. So what we did is the limit was when the lines come out, the limit is at the place we were at was $2,000. So all three of us went right up to the counter, and we basically we asked them how much they give us on USC, but we wanted to split it, and they only would give us each. So we each got $1,000. We got $1,000 USC -1. We took it. And they immediately moved the line USC -2. So we came back. We liked Oregon. We already had talked about it because Oregon had already beat Iowa. We had made Oregon a small little favorite over USC. Oregon is a very senior-led team. They have senior guards. They start 3 seniors and 2 juniors, where USC has 2 seniors. They're guards, but they're not their main players. This Peterson kid shot threes like he's never really shot them before for USC. There's no freaking way he's going to shoot that well again. The Mobley, who's on USC, he is a lottery pick. If you ever heard him speak, you could take some lessons from me, and that's not saying much. So I think that he's going to be reading his press clippings, and I think Oregon goes out and wins the game. So we inflated the line with the books in Vegas, and we've now jumped on them pretty hard at 2.5 because the limit has increased. They raise the limits daily, and so we all pounded the books at 2.5 today, and the line's now dropped to 1.5 or 2. I like Oregon straight up. I bet him on the money line. That's the one game of the weekend of the Sweet 16 that I like the most. Take the Ducks.
And these teams, they're familiar with each other. I mean, they've seen each other before, so not a lot of secrets here. And will this also still be at Hinkle Fieldhouse? Because that was crazy what USC was able to do to Kansas at Hinkle Fieldhouse. That was, only like the third in Kansas history that they'd lost a game by that many points. I mean, just destroyed by, like you said, a team that shot 61% from beyond the arc after shooting 34% for the season.
Yeah, and I should also say, I really think Dane Altman, I think that's the pronounced of the head coach of the Ducks. That guy is a head coach. He will coach them up. He'll have 4 or 5 days to do something uniquely on the defensive end. When they played earlier this season, it really wasn't a close game. Henceforth, I think USC will be reading their press clippings saying, you know what? We can beat Gonzaga. We can beat – because Gonzaga's – that's the bracket they're in. If they win, they play Gonzaga. I guarantee you they're talking about the young kids. We can slay the dragon. We can beat the big guys. They ain't going to get past the Ducks. And your banner, my friend, I almost feel like this is Joe Biden here. I'm reading something that's not true. USC -1. That's wrong. Take the Ducks.
Well, that's what you had on here. You said USC betted at -1, but now like Oregon +2.5. So you're telling people take Oregon in the points.
Take Oregon in the points, folks. We're working together here. We're going to come together. We're going to bring the country together. If Tim and I can come together, things will be awesome.
Well, I'm just going to do you one more thing. I mean, we're up against the clock here, but, I kept looking for the game of the week, and you don't even have it on here. And I honestly, I think I would know who I would bet on, but oof. You know what the best game is going to be next weekend, don't you?
What?
Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes against Paige Beckers and the Yukon Huskies. You've got in Caitlin Clark, the number one scorer in the country, second-team All-American freshman at Iowa, versus in Beckers, a Naismith and Nancy Lieberman Award finalist, first-team All-American, Big East Player of the Year. These two know each other. They've played on Team USA and AAU teams together all the way up. This is the 1979 Irvin Magic Johnson at Michigan State versus Indiana State for the national championship. This isn't the national championship. It's only a 60 game, unfortunately. But this is your Magic and Beck versus your Bird in Caitlin Clark 2021 edition. If you watch one game this next week, that is the game you should watch.
Until they have point spreads on the games, I know they do it for the Final Four for the girls. Can't endorse it, my friend. We're here to make money, Paige Beckers,
I'm just telling you, these two can change women's basketball. The smartest thing the WNBA could do, if they do it, would be to get rid of the restrictions of making these young women stay for 4 years in college. Let them do what the men do. Let them go. These two are WNBA ready right now. Paige Beckers would be the number one pick of the New York Liberty. It would put her in New York, major media market, young team with a lot of talent. You'd see that WNBA game take off, and you, my friend, would have more games to wager on.
There you go, right? And I will share that there is a huge market for people that if you want to really get involved in gambling, go find the obscure conferences or obscure sporting events. Somebody asked me in Vegas if I would help them do lines for the Arena Football League, and I started laughing. I'm like, I don't even understand the rules, and you want me to help set you with lines? It's almost like I'm the fox in the henhouse.
So you're doing it, I'm guessing.
I am not doing it. No. I told them.
They weren't going to pay you enough. They've got to pay the man. You got to pay the man.
That's
He's
right.
Mikey. He's our insider.
He's
like Cher. He's Oprah. He only needs one name. He's Mikey, and he likes it. All right, we're going to digest your Sweet 16 edition, my friend, and we are going to check in next week. We're going to work on some technical issues. We appreciate you people for checking us out. And our UFFDAH Sports Network has a bunch of new properties that are happening all the time. We've got Viking Territory. We've got Purple PTSD. We have Mini Ice. We have now the Draft Team, which is just debuting. And, of course, we've got our NFL League as much. So, franchise tagged. So any one of those, great content all the time. UFFDAH Sports. And, of course, our flagship edition, Mike likes it. He is our gambling insider. We appreciate your time, your effort, and your insight. Stay well, and may the odds be in your favor, my friend.
Have a good night. Tomorrow's going to be a great debate, or not debate, press conference. Totally looking forward to it.
See you, everybody. We'll see you down the road.